Are you pro-choice? Let's see if I have what it takes to change your mind. My purpose today is to persuade you to support overturning Roe v. Wade. This is a highly debated topic, so I have conducted thorough research from both sides of the topic and spoken with someone who could have been aborted themselves to see how they feel about the subject. Whether you are a parent, a teacher, or self-employed, it behooves us all to invest in the future of America by making effective decisions today. The choices we make about abortions policies will have a lasting effect on generations to come. After hearing what I have to say today, I am confident that you will agree that overturning Roe v. Wade is what is right for America. I will begin by describing the problem, then explain some of the causes, and conclude with my solution. With our roadmap in place, let's begin with the problem. The problem is some people oppose overturning Roe v. Wade. The first example is many polls and studies have been done to determine how Americans feel about Roe v. Wade. According to the Pew Research study in 2018, it showed that 6 out of 10 U.S. Americans that participated in the poll voted that abortion should be legal in all or even most cases. Another poll done in 2018 from the Wall Street Journal and NBC News showed that 71% of American voters believed that the decision to the right to legal abortion should not be overturned. These statistics convey a public opinion that the majority of Americans oppose overturning Roe v. Wade. Now let me bring my attention to a topic similar with this problem in showing you that from the Pew Research Center, there are many differences about the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade or not. On your left are the people who do not want to overturn Roe v. Wade, and on your right are those who believe to overturn it. No matter if it's women, men, any variety of ages, whether they're postgraduates or high school graduates, liberals, conservatives, or any form of the churches, all of them sway towards not overturning Roe v. Wade. Another example is that people of color also believe that Roe v. Wade should not be overturned. According to Planned Parenthood via a study done by the Women's Health Protection Act as of July 2017, showed that over 70% of African Americans, Latinos, and Pacific Islanders support Roe v. Wade. This data demonstrates that many people oppose overturning Roe v. Wade. Now that we understand the problem, let's look at some of the causes. There are two main reasons why some people oppose overturning Roe v. Wade. The first reason is based on the belief that women have the right to make choices over their own bodies. It is believed that the rights to abortion is essential to women's equality by allowing them the right to make decisions for herself and her family. According to the pro-choice America organization, every woman should be able to choose for herself if, when, or with whom to start a family. However, the child inside of the mother's womb should have the same rights as the mother, given that this child inside of her is just as human as each of us. According to the book The Developing Human, in 2015, the cardiovascular system is one of the first major systems to function. About 22 days after conception, the child's heart begins to beat and circulate his or her own blood, unique from the mother's. Those who justify abortion by claiming that no one knows when life begins are not basing it on science, but rather their own brand of politics, philosophy, or even religion. Their argument is not about when life begins. It is about when or if it deserves legal acknowledgement. The second reason is based on the belief that if they continue their pregnancy, they will not be able to afford raising a child. Results found in 2005 and 2014 by the Guttmacher Institute showed more than 70% of the time that induced abortions were due to the inability to afford raising a child, or due to the belief that the baby would interfere with life responsibilities. Another study done in 2000 showed more than half of women who had induced abortions lived below the poverty line. However, there are 20 billionaires in this world who came from poor families in poor situations. A great example of someone who made much of himself from nothing is Leonardo del Vecchio. Leonardo del Vecchio was born in 1935, one of 5 children. By the age of 7, he was fatherless, and his mother had to give him up to an orphanage because she could no longer afford to care for him. Nevertheless, he is now, decades later, the second richest man in Italy with a net worth of $19.8 billion, based on decisions that he made to make a life for himself. It goes to show that it doesn't matter if you believe your child will be able to be supported by yourself, because even if you can't, it doesn't mean that your child that you could have given birth to couldn't have made it out good, even if it's under somebody else's roof. Now that we understand the problem and some of its causes, let's look at the solution. The solution, which is to overturn Roe v. Wade, offers 2 main benefits. The first benefit is that it would allow for more children to be available for adoption. The American Adoption Agency states that 6.1 billion women in the United States have difficulty getting or staying pregnant. A study done in 2002 by the CDC shows that over half of those women seek out adoption. According to the PBS American documentary in 2010, the percentage of infants given up for adoption has declined from 9% of those born before 1973, when Roe v. Wade was enacted, to 1% of those born between 1996 and 2002. According to the CDC's abortion surveillance, between 1996 and 2002, there were over 6.7 billion abortions. Just as many abortions happened as women that longed to have a child. My father is living proof of how adoption can help in situations where families cannot have a baby and wish to have one. He was given up by a young couple who were not ready for the responsibility of taking care of a baby. The second benefit is that there would be more people in this country who could serve in our military. According to Dr. William Robert Johnston, between the years 1969 and 1971, over 700,000 abortions took place. I chose to hone in on these years because those are the years, roughly, that a lot of our men who served in Desert Storm were born. During Desert Storm, from January 17, 1991 to February 28, 1991, about 697,000 U.S. troops were deployed, and 299 lost their lives, according to military.com. Just imagine, had those thousands of abortions not taken place during those same years, how much stronger our military could have been during that war. My father had served 8 years in the U.S. Army during Desert Storm, and now I, his daughter, served 5 years in the U.S. Navy. Had my father not been adopted and rather aborted, then there would have been 2 less lives that could have been used to serve our country in our military. Maybe one day I will then have a child or children who end up serving in our military as well. In conclusion, Roe v. Wade should be overturned. Let's review what we have learned today. First, we learned the problem is some some people oppose overturning Roe v. Wade, as evidenced by over half of American voters and 70% of minorities supporting Roe v. Wade. Next, we learned some reasons about why people support Roe v. Wade, to include women's rights over their body and how the child inside of her should have equal rights, as well as the belief of not being able to afford a child and how that child might actually end up had they not been aborted and still been born. Finally, we learned about the benefits from overturning Roe v. Wade, such as allowing more children to be available for adoption and having more people readily available to serve in our military. Many people do not realize how many women are unable to have children that want to, nor do they realize what the child's potential could be if they actually let the child live. I urge you to vote to overturn Roe v. Wade, as we are currently in a national battle fighting this topic. Everybody say goodbye.